So we're going to do a video on assembling your dice tower. Your dice tower, when it's finished, should look like that. You are going to be storing it like that. It should store like that. It should sit like that. Put your dice in the top. So we'll just do a quick video on how to get this assembled. We're going to show you essentially the method of doing it. We're not going to really glue it together, but we're going to show you the method of getting the pieces together. So when you get your kit, take it apart and save these elastics. We'll use these elastics to hold it together while the glue is setting. And you can see that there is a design on one side of the them, but not on the other. So you can have the design out, or you can have the design on the in. So depending on whether or not you want to paint your dice tower or not, if you want to paint the dice tower, you may want to have the plain sidewall so your paint goes on nicely. If you're not painting your dice tower, you probably want to have the design on the outside just so that it's a little more, got a little more of a design to it, I guess. So separate out the pieces for the dice tower, and there's also the pieces for the box. So the pieces for the box over here, we'll assemble the box separately or afterwards, and we'll assemble the dice tower first. So when you're assembling it, basically you're going to put it together like this so that when the designs are on the outside. So the trick of this is to hold the dice tower in one hand, and excuse me for shaking a little bit. I'm a little shaky, but if I'm a little shaky and I can do this, anybody can. So the trick is to put the back pieces in first. So there's the back wraps that you're going to put in first, and then we're going to put in the front wraps. And we're going to start by putting in the big wrap. And again, with the big wrap, you can have the design out, or you can have the design in. So I want to have the design out. I want it a little more decorative. When we put it in, we're going to fully make sure that the slots are all the way in on one side before we start moving it in to put the slots in the other. So again, with the other wrap, we're going to make sure that I get this slot all the way in before I start with this one. And again, all the way in before I start with this one. Okay, so as we're putting these in, you can have your choice. You can glue these in with white glue, and if you're gluing them in with white glue, now would be the time to glue them, or actually you could even put the glue on either side of the slot before you start assembling. If you're using the CA adhesive, you can get the little wraps in place, and got to do this quickly, but you can glue them in place on the inside here, and then we'll put our outer ones in. So again, we're going to make sure it's all the way in before we go over here, and again all the way in before we go over here. And I pop that one out. Okay, so we got them in. So again, I'm going to wick the glue down the sides of my ramps and just let it run into position. Okay, so once we have the ramps glued in place, we can put the base on. And again, the base, if you're using white glue, what we will do with the white glue is we'll just put dabs of glue on every one of the tabs like this. The glue, put the base in place like that. And get a paper towel, and we'll just clean up that excess glue. And we can do the same if we're using the white glue, or if we're using the CA. Again, same thing. we can just put the CA on those tabs, or again, we can let the CA glue wick down the sides after we have it assembled. So we're going to go like that, and now we're going to lay our piece in place. Clean up the glue. Get it squeezed out. An elastic band there. An elastic band there. An elastic band there. Set our tower down and let it dry. Now we can start putting together the little box to catch the dice, so the tray to catch the dice. And again, we'll just put our pieces in place. Again, we can do it two ways. If we're using crazy glue or the CA glue, we can get it together and then we can wick down the sides like that once it's assembled. If we are using white glue, we are going to put the white glue on the tabs. So if you generally, if you put the white glue on the tabs of the outside rails, you don't necessarily always have to put it on the base, but you can usually just put it on the tabs here, and that will be more than enough to hold it together. If you choose to, you can glue both. You're going to have a lot of glue squirting out, but that's okay. You can just wipe it up with a rag. That's quite acceptable. So we'll just glue all these tabs, and then we'll pop this together. We're going to hold it together the same as the dice tower. We're going to just grip it in one hand and put the pieces on with the other. So we're just going to put them together like this. It fits quite tight, so the glue, or it will stay together. Once we got it together, we're going to put the elastic on. But a word of caution when we use the elastics. First, if you're using the CA glue, if you get CA glue on the elastic, it will damage the elastic and it'll let go. The other thing is you don't want your elastic up here. It'll make the top bow in, and basically this tower has to fit in here. So you don't want the top bowed in. So you want your elastic right down at the base to hold it together. And if you do that, then you won't have an issue with the tower fitting in afterwards. So if you get that together, hold it apart. Get that together, clean up all your glue, like so. Down like that to dry. Put your tower like that to dry. Let everything dry. Once it's dried, get a magic eraser. Not a lot of water on it, just a little bit of water. Just damp, like so, wet it, wring it out, and then basically you can take off any of the smoke that's on it. It's a little easier once the glue is dry, but at the same time it'll clean up some of the excess glue that has squeezed out. It'll come out on the magic eraser and it'll clean up quite nicely. But you don't want to get it really wet. Once you've washed it off, you want to dry it off with a paper towel as well. And that's all there is to assembling your dice tower. And many happy hours of gaming, and when you're done, it should look like that. Drop your dice in the top and they should roll into the bottom. Thank you very much.